We've been reflecting a lot because we're on month 9 here in Southern Africa, on year 4, going on year 5 in Africa as a whole as digital nomad entrepreneurs. And, we've had children abroad. We have seen farmland. We have built cabins in the mountains. We have really done and had the grace to do a lot of things. And I look back right now at where we were in Ohio, and even looking back adjacently at our people who are still in Ohio or in America or in UK. And it's like, wow, this life has been so abundant because of the decisions we've made. And I think it's so humbling. It's something that it's hard to grasp and it's hard to put into words until you live it for this amount of time. I also see a lot of people that go back and forth between America and Africa, or back and forth between African countries every 30 to 90 days. And it's like, wow, we are literally in a place where we have a long stay visa because of the work that we put in back in 2016. And so I'm just like honored and humbled by all of that. But what do you think, like, with everything that's happening right now in the world? We just saw a headline about how the US is warning the entire world. This was a new notification that I just received today, that protests are going to erupt worldwide, not just in America, with the election that's coming up. And so it's like, what choices can people make now? I know we kind of disagree on this. I believe people can still make a last minute snap decision, especially those of us who are introverts, who are quick decision makers, who are mentally, they have the capacity to make a quick decision and execute quickly and it be the right decision for their family. But I mean, I know you may disagree with that. You kind of been thinking like, man, it's kind of too late if you haven't done it already.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about because I really feel like it might be too late. The US, they always say things and put it like this. I don't even say the US. I want to say the enemy, the adversary. He always has to tell you what's going to happen before it happens. And recently, these past 4 years, everything just been speeding up. Everything's been coming quicker than usual. So with them saying that, especially this close to the U.S. election, it's telling me that hey, it might not be an election. Is it going to be war or is it going to be an election? That's how I'm feeling. So I really believe it might be too late. Just how just how in Israel and Ukraine they shut flights down because of missiles in the sky. So those are the thoughts that come to my head when it comes to is it too late? Can you come out the last minute? I believe it might not be too late, but I would say that you have to get it going before this month ends. Before November ends, I would say yes. You might want to get going because pretty soon everything's going to be locked down. It's bringing me back to 2019. It's bringing me back to when before COVID was happening. It's chatters that's saying this, it's chatter that's saying that, but literally it might be too late, and they already told you blueprint in 2019, and that's how I'm seeing it right now. So if you haven't really booked your tickets, if you haven't really got things going already, if you haven't put things in place, because being here in Africa for 4 years going on 5 years, you really have to have things in place before you even leave the states or leave the UK. And that's what I noticed just being here for 4 years. I'm glad that we actually had things in place before we left, because some people literally come here on off savings. Some people literally come here and don't have a steady income. So when I say it's too late, I think that's the main thing I think about. If somebody asks me, "Hey, is it too late?" I don't think it's too late if you have a steady income coming in. If you have a steady income coming in, you can literally travel and be a digital nomad wherever you want to be.
That's so good because you're basically saying, what I'm hearing is you're saying that you have to have the grace for it. I think that's with anything in life. That's with marriage, business, parenthood. You have to be elected and called to have the grace for what you want to do. If you don't have the grace for it, then it'll fail. And so it's one of those things, you have to be able to know yourself, know your family, know your decisions that you make. Are you going to be able to make a quick right decision? Because a quick wrong decision can be wrong. And then on top of that, you need to think about your network. Like, I think back to the network we had in Ohio was a small network, not a large network. I think we could have done better networking back in Ohio. But once we left Ohio, we built such a vast network to where we know people who live in West Africa. We know people who live in Ghana. We're aware of people and what's going on in Sierra Leone. We understand the dynamics in South Africa to an extent as it relates to long stay visas and things like that and the cost of living. We know what it's like, obviously, in the country that we live in. We know what it's like in Tanzania. We understand the dynamics of Kenya because we have the network inside of Dream Life Africa of people that are distributed amongst about 12 different countries in Africa. And so, and even thinking back to like one of the consultations we did that ended up being a close family friend now, a couple that is in, actually, it's a family that's in Zambia. And you guys, y'all talk often and y'all talk about, what's going on there, what some of their things are that they're doing, what how the weather is, what are some of the dynamics. And so it also comes down to network because I understand that not everybody has a YouTube channel. YouTube automatically opens you up to a network and you get to be put in a very privileged and honorable position where you get access to information that you otherwise wouldn't have access to. And so, for people who are listening that may not have any type of network to Africa, they may not even be interacting with the Africans that are even at their job, right? Even going back to that, because we talked about that in previous videos. Like you and I both had work relationships with the Africans that we worked at in our jobs, whether they were from Sierra Leone, Guinea Bissau, Ghana, wherever they were from, we had good relationships with them. And if you're one of those people already in America that you're condescending and you look down on other people, you're automatically going to have a more difficult transition here versus if you're open to African culture and open to your brothers in West Africa and South Africa and East Africa and even North Africa. They're going to open those doors for you. And so it's going to be a great decision to keep those relationships open.
The relationships is very important. So you really have to believe what our African and our African brothers and sisters say, because they say, hey, they yeah, go to Africa. They're welcoming. So it's literally like, hey, are you gonna take what they say serious? Are you gonna take what the people that's been here on the ground, such as us, such a family as ours, serious? Because it's really getting down to that time where you can't just think about hopping countries anymore. You have to really think about where is the long stay residents. And I'm not talking about visas now. I'm talking about residents. You have to really understand, hey, okay, I might have to put 150,000 US dollars down to stay in the country for 2 years. Or you might can go to another country and put 50,000 down, and you can stay 3 years. Or, the research that we do and starting to understand like these residents, which is the best country for residents. And you might can put 35,000 to 50,000 down and stay here for 10 years. So you have to understand the dynamics behind what's what's really going to be the best for you and your family, because that's what we're starting to realize. Like, okay, it was good to, I know the Most High called us to go to Tanzania, and that was good for a season. But after that season, we had to literally go somewhere else to sustain our family for the future, for the next 5 years, for the next 10 years, because what's about to come to this earth and what's really going to happen in the next 6 months, I would say, not even, it's going to be tragic. It's going to be people, if you're not strong in the Most High, if you're not strong in a decision making that you have to do on a split second, it's going to be very confusing. You're going to be left behind. Just like the other day, I know we was talking about, for me personally, the Most High been saying to me, if you're at 50 miles per hour and he's telling you to keep going straight, and you decide to curve a little bit to the left or curve a little bit to the right, that little decision is going to slow you down to 48 miles per hour. And we really can't have that wrong decision slow you down. So it's really time to like really buckle down for the people that's listening here, for the people that really understand. There's no time to not listen to what the Most High is telling His people, because we really got to be straight on this narrow path and continue on this 50 miles per hour. It's not time to slow down at all.
Wow, that's really something to think about. It's kind of wild, but that's why we always talk about knowing the least corrupt countries, knowing which countries Americans can get in visa free, because this is like the nuance of moving to Africa. And it's not just like moving to Africa, but staying in Africa. I would even like to stop saying moving to Africa. We should just start a series called Staying in Africa. That should be the series we start, because it's one thing to move, but what does it profit you to move and waste your money and waste your time and waste your stress levels on something that is not furthering your family lineage, on the nuance of having trouble in countries that do not have their systems and have corruption that's at like a sky high rate. It looks beautiful on the outside, it looks beautiful from a vanity standpoint, but on the inside it's those tough questions of, okay, what does this look like when I pass down property to my children? Can I pass down property to my children? How much is the sales tax? Am I going to have 35% sales tax? We're in a country where when we want to pass down property, it's 5% sales tax, and we can put our property in a trust. So, what are those deeper questions that we actually do in Stay of the Diaspora? Those hard questions that people are like, I never even thought about moving to Africa like this. And it's like, you don't think about it because most people just have the average mindset of not knowing. A lot of people in our community in the diaspora had never owned a home before, right? But we both come from families where home ownership was the norm, and so we inherited property, or were in households where our family had property, had businesses, had these different things going. And so they were already, they put us, and that's what I'm grateful for, they put us in an advanced mindset and skill set. And so we're picking up the baton basically from the lineages that went before us and got a few things wrong. And so we saw that and we were like, okay, but as far as you were able to advance in that system, now I can take all of that knowledge and I can amplify everything that you maybe got right in some areas or got wrong in some areas. And I can take that and I can 7 times the trajectory of my lineage and children after me. And I think that's also why it's so awesome to be in Africa, where the culture is biblical, it's lineage. Africa is so much lineage based. It's all about family structure. What's going to further my lineage? What's going to further my tribe? Because literally, if our children just have 3 children on average, that's 15 grandchildren. That's an entire, you're building up to an entire tribe, an entire city, an entire nation just with those generations alone. And so that's something that people really need to think about. I think people who are single, this is also something to think about as we're in the last times. People that are single but have children with, baby mothers, baby fathers, whatever they want to call it, look to get back into those relationships, get married, because you're not going to make it in these last days without a proper structure. It's either you're physically going to be taken out, or you're mentally going to be unstable because you have to reap the treachery that you're sowing.
Yeah, that's deep. That's super deep right there. And I hope whoever's listening to this really understands what you just said, because that's very powerful. And it just really comes down to what do you believe? Like it's very simple. Do you believe that the Most High's power is real and true and right here in front of us, or do you not? Are you still going to believe in this world, and depending on what's going to happen after November 4th, are you going to move like that, or are you literally going to say, okay, I'm going to trust the Most High and have Him lead and guide me? Because that's what it's coming down to. That's what it's been, and it's just more and more obvious. I know to me, it's more and more obvious to me and my household, where we have to choose righteously. There's no other choice. There's no other choice. You have to strive to know where you're going, because that's literally what it is. That's literally what it is. So you have to change your mindset. You have to really be the Most High called you to be. You have to know your purpose. You have to be wise in these last days. Just how we talked about all through this video. You got to know where you want to stay the long for the long term. It's not just moving, it's about staying long term now. I know before 4 years ago, 2 years ago, it was about moving. Oh, maybe you want to go here, maybe you want to go there. I really believe it's not time for that. So if you're in Africa, choose your country and literally make sure you're doing their requirements. Make sure you do not choose a corrupt country, as we always say. Don't choose a corrupt country because that's just going to be more problems than solutions. And that's another thing. Make sure you can figure out a solution for every problem quick, because it's not time to just be stagnant and worrying about the problem is problem and you don't get a solution. So make sure you have a solution quick. Um and yeah, it's just really time to be what the most high called you to be. And you know what I'm thinking? For me, you literally just, this is what you have to do. I'm gonna give you guys an example of what you have to do. Okay? This is what you have to do, guys. So, if you really believe this is something, make sure nothing in my pockets. If you really believe this is something that you have to do it. Okay? Just do it.